Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from today. Welcome and thank you for being here. My name is Gabby Palumbo, and I'm the Director of Marketing at O3 Solutions, and it's great to have you with us for today's session, The Gap Nobody Talks About Between the Model and the Field. We've got a fantastic session lined up, and we're joined by some of the organizations doing this work at the highest level. Before we dive in, just a few housekeeping items. First, please submit your questions in the chat at any point. You don't have to wait until the end. You can drop them in as they come to you, and we'll get to as many questions as we can during the Q&A. Second, this session is going to be recorded, and the recording will be sent to everyone who is registered. So if you need to step away or want to revisit anything, you'll have it later today. And third, if you scan the QR code on the screen, it'll take you to the webinar page where you can bookmark and access all of today's materials, including the recording, which will be available shortly after the webinar concludes. And lastly, we encourage everyone to stay until the end, as we will be sharing an announcement that today's attendees will get exclusive first access to. With that, let me introduce the person who will be leading us through today's conversation. It's my pleasure to hand things over to our moderator for today, Dr. Jacques Corey. He is a true expert in this space, and I'll let him share a bit more about himself after a brief introduction. Jacques, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gabby. It's always a pleasure working with you and collaborating on these beautiful events that we're making. Good morning, good afternoon for everyone joining this webinar. It's going to be a nice journey that we will spend approximately 1 hour together. We have around the session today experts from the field, so stay tuned. As Gabby mentioned, we will have an exclusive announcement at the end, so you'll have to stay till the end, very end minute of the meeting. But before all of that, I would like to start this webinar with sharing you with this short story of a superintendent. Let's walk through his eyes and ears and see how things are working on his side. So imagine with me a superintendent. He walks into the field and asks a simple question on Monday morning. Can my crew start doing the work package today? Can I start doing the construction on the site? In his mind, he thinks that 92% of the engineering is completed. The procurement, 85% is done. Schedule is on track and crews are mobilized. So there's no problem in his perspective to move forward and start doing the construction. Next. So once he started asking this question, can he start do the job on the site? He realizes that no, it's a red flag for him. The answer is simply no. Why? Is not because of missing labor. It has been already set, the crew is there, is ready to work. Not because the material is missing, because the items were ordered and confirmed, and not because of budget issues, because the funds were approved and available. But the real problem, and this is why we're making this webinar, is that the information has never reached really and effectively the site. So there was a missing gap between the digital world that they were perfectly aligning with it and preparing it with the field and execution on the site. So the dashboard said ready, the field was not. That's why something disappeared. This is the missing link in the chain between the digital world and the physical world. So the design teams, the different stakeholders working on the project, they worked on preparing the engineering, the planning, the procurement, and now we're waiting for doing the construction. So most organizations, they think their challenge is the engineering, the procurement, or scheduling, most of the cases. But after working with many, many major capital projects across the globe, we are convinced that one of the biggest risks lives right here, which is the handoff between the information of being available and the information being actionable. So the team that is working on the digital side, he may have done a wonderful job creating the drawings, the sketches, the 3D models, even populated with metadata, the schedule, it is approved, the dashboard. He's pretending to have the full digital twin, which is the perfect environment for this kind of job. But then when you reach the site, you see that there is constraints still to be removed. There is material confirmed at work front. There is work package executable, crew ready to start, no surprises. That is the essence of the issues that is happening today on the market and the construction industry. In addition to that, communication issues, miscollaboration, lack of the knowledge of what's happening on the site, lack of planning that you have prepared it to go on the site and start doing the work. So multiple things take place, and then we need to solve all that. So the real test of digital project management is not whether a dashboard is green, it's whether the right crew can perform the right work at the right time with no surprises. So I'm pretty sure most of you are suffering from this kind of events, from this kind of problems. That's why we would like to invite you to start this webinar with this poll. We would like to hear from you. We want you to be engaged in this to understand more your projects today. They have been successfully created digitally, but are you still struggling to deliver the executable work on the field? Is it always? Is it most of the time? Is it sometimes or rarely? If you say rarely, I want to work for you, but I don't think the case. So please fill the poll, give us 30 seconds of your time, and let's go from here. So the poll has now appeared on your screen, and you have to tick the boxes where you're standing the most. Dan, how is it going with the poll? Everything's good? All right. Excellent. Yeah, let's share the results. So the winner is most of the time, which is expected. Sometimes, which is 43%. Rarely, 7%. You need to identify yourself at the end of the meeting. And then we have always, which is like 4%. So as expected, most of the APCs, the owners, the design companies, they stand in the middle, which is approximately towards the higher end, which is most of the time. And that's exactly why we're doing this webinar. That's exactly why we have experts today in this webinar coming from different industries, different organizations, and we'll introduce them in a second. Thank you for this poll. That gives a lot of information. So in this today's journey, the projects are not built by dashboards. Projects are built by crews. They fail rarely because of poor planning. They fail because what was planned never reached the field in a form that crews actually use it. Drawings are not ready, materials is not confirmed, constraints not resolved. The gap between the plan on paper and the work that can start tomorrow is where productivity is lost and costs compound. So next, we will go through this webinar in chapters. Chapter 1 will be the vision. We'll understand who are we talking with today on this webinar. What were the original solution that they implemented? Like everyone else, like digital twin is the best thing that's happening today. So why they use digital twin? How would they define that? But then they have faced a challenge, like everyone else, like you guys as well. So what was that challenge? Can you tell us about your challenges? And then what was the pivoting point? What was the turning point that made you choose a different methodology, particularly the advanced work packaging and digital project management? This is what I always say. It's a map. Digital twin is like a map. And believe me, I've been so much working on digital twins. It's like a big, big map, a lot of routes. But the AWP, advanced work packaging, is the road that is highlighted, extremely well defined within that digital twin. So it takes you to the road to the path, to the end that you would want it to take you for. And then we will finish with the results, measurable impact, schedule, cost, and productivity. Next. So I am Dr. Jacques Corey, based in Switzerland. I have more than 20 years of experience in research development and engineering, computer, digital twin, AWP, Industry 4.0. Throughout my career, I had the opportunity to create seven inventions and international inventions in this domain, written 3 books in this perspective. I also supported BIM World Paris 2023 alongside Building Smart as the president of the jury and then R&D senior advisor for the CII. which we're working on multiple initiatives that we are trying to push forward. So today we have a very interesting panelists, very distinguished people that are recognized and renowned worldwide. A first organization that we are speaking to and building a very beautiful story together is Técnicas Unidas. It's represented by Joaquin Hernandez Meziguer. So, Joaquin, do you mind presenting yourself?
Hello, Jax and Gabby. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share with you all our challenges regarding the digital twin implementation. I'm Joaquin Hernandez. I'm working for Técnicas Unidas more than 15 years now. I met Jax in one international ADIPEC, I remember, I don't know which year, 3 years ago probably. And since then, we have done a good and a nice roadmap together. I've been I've been in charge from different departments. I started with planning and production control, then Hanover and commissioning, and right now I'm in charge of the digital transformation area in Técnicas Unidas. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Joaquin. So, as Joaquin mentioned, like he's one of the distinguished leaders on the market today that he knows very well his work, his job, which is digital twin, advanced word packaging, digitalization, all that together blended into a very simple way of explaining it. I remember one of the presentation you were making, like it was full audience, everyone was there. So thank you for joining, Joaquin. It's always a pleasure to work together. Mauro Scarabelli from Max Striker. Mauro, do you mind presenting yourself?
Hello, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Mauro Scarabelli. I'm the operation manager at Max Striker Saudi Arabia. And my background, I work now in oil and gas projects since now more than 15 years. And I come basically from construction progress. My company is mostly focused on pipelines and plants, working at the moment in Saudi Arabia since now a few years. And thank you for having me. And let's hope to have a good conversation today.
Thank you so much, Mauro. Also, again, the pleasure meeting with you and working together. It's like when you plant a small seed in the garden or in the forest, and then it becomes a big tree. This is how our collaboration with Mauro is that we started from nothing, and then no one believed in the work we were doing, and now we're growing and growing. So thank you so much, Mauro. Dr. Omar, representing Aramco, please present yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Omar Lara Castro. I'm really honored to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. I've been in the industry around 25 years now, and the last 13 years with Aramco, currently being the leader of the Business Intelligence and Advisory Group, where we have some tasks in the project management organization related to technologies and digitalization, where we explore, improvements in the processes or the software or any tool that help us to improve, how to deliver capital projects. So thank you again for the invitation.
Thank you, Dr. Omar. It's a huge opportunity and a huge responsibility that you have at Aramco, which I saw it with my own eyes, is that you're taking the lead with the flag and moving everyone behind you in Aramco on the AWP. That's not something easy. And bravo for that, really. Next slide, we will start with the questions. It's going to be a conversation. And please, everyone watching this webinar, we would like you to actively engage with this webinar. We want you to write us your questions, whatever the question is there. If we are not able to finish on time with all the answers, it's fine. We will follow up with that afterwards. And stay till the last minute, please, because we will have an exclusive announcement till the end. So the first question I would like to ask it for Mauro to begin with is what and why are organizations investing in digital twins today? And what are the outcomes that are expected from these initiatives, in your opinion?
Okay, to answer this in the most simple way, I would say let's look around ourselves. Let's look around the work, the work environment we are living with, the world we are living with. How we could not rely on this type of tools where now everything revolves around data, around gathering accurate information, around having especially a fast and effective communication, especially an effective one. And even if our works revolve in like huge infrastructure where there is a lot of inertia to move things around, to start, to move, to have the more I go on in this industry and this work, the more is important to have really good data, usable data, actionable information that are really crucial to deliver a project on time and on budget. So really the outcomes expected from the effort we are doing on these technologies, and we as Striker are for sure still at the beginning of this, as Dr. Jacques was saying, is to handle data and information effectively. So the project management team is actually in full control of the work and not always stuck in a reactive mode where things that are supposed to happen, as Jacques was highlighting, are supposed to happen, they are not happening, and then all the effort is in establishing why, and when you figure out the why, it's too late to take action effectively to recover it. So this seems like almost let's say a given, something that everybody who works in project deals with it, I believe, every day, but really at the core for me is this is the expectation, and this is the reason why we are trying to focus on these tools, these digital twins, and these other technological initiatives.
Thank you, Mauro. So preventive, predictive, metadata. This is what the essence of the work that you're doing for the digital twins. Dr. Omar, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm totally agree with Mauro. When there is a new trend in the market, big organization, they don't want to be left behind. They want to catch up. They want to implement. They want to try. What are the benefits that they can catch? What are the benefits that they can obtain from that deployments? And this is the case in Aramco. In Aramco, around 10 years ago, we started exploring on the digital twins. We have developed best practices and specifications internal in order to adapt this technology into our capital project with different type of results at the moment. I think the idea here and the message is that you need to try and you need to adapt to learn on what are the results on the different implementations and adapt to the coming ones. And I think we have seen many benefits so far.
Thank you so much, Dr. Omar. And what do you think, Joaquin? You align on that?
Okay, from our point of view, the EPC digital twin helps obviously EPC contractor for having a platform that represent all the phases of an EPC. We are doing as a company engineering, procurement, construction, and nowadays even commissioning. Our client are requesting to us. So all of this can be in the same digital environment. The difference is not just a visualization model, but instead we position the digital twin as a project-wide data integration. Okay, and answering your second question, what outcomes are expecting? Okay, EPC digital twin, at least in Técnicas Reunidas, is helping us as a contractor for improving for example, the project performance, the construction productivity, obviously the decision support, the data quality, and more important, the asset handover, because we transfer to our client in a smoothly way all the asset data in one go. The key message from Técnicas Reunidas is that the value is not embedded in the digital twin itself, but in how effectively you manage to integrate with the execution processes, okay? Because without this connection, you don't take all the benefits from the digital twin.
Understand. That's clear. And I like the idea that we are working preventive, predictive, metadata, aligning everyone, platform, project-wise data integration, and then this gives the soul of the digital twins. That takes us to the next question, which is understanding more the vision. What were your expectations from the digital twin? Which KPI mattered the most once you start hearing of the digital twin? Dr. Omar.
There is something we call 8D in Aramco. I think it's also in the industry right now. So there are indicators that are there: safety, performance, schedule, cost. There are plenty. I think predictability is something that help us a lot to understand the benefits as an owner. As an owner, you need to understand, because cost, schedule, and of course all these variables are well monitored, are important to us, are critical to us. Predictability is something that the digital twin can provide to you, that you can be certain at finalizing a project with a particular budget within some tolerance, of course. And I'm talking about budget, I'm talking about cost, and all these variables. And I think the predictability that the digital twin can provide to you is something, a major benefit for us.
Yep. Mauro, what do you think?
In particular, there is one KPI that for me is almost an obsession in my organization. That is the KPI of physical progress, because basically this one and again, part of it is my construction background. So for a hammer, all the word is a nail. Okay, but
Yeah.
apart from that, is the fact that in my experience, when the physical progress is aligned, it means that everything else is done properly, because to achieve this one is basically the end result of correct preparation, correct logistics, correct assignment of design, removal of constraint, and so on. So this is really the KPI that for me matter the most, and is also the one that typically is the first one that triggers all the problems of, and the first one to highlight the gap that Dr. Jacques was highlighting in the first slides.
And if I want to understand a little bit more, Mauro, on this, so today you're working with multiple subcontractors in Saudi Arabia, and then this physical progress, is it really a problem that is emerging from the cultural working, or is it like lack of tools, or is it like implementation, or all of these three together?
Is for sure is a combination of factors. The aspect of the, let's say, there is an item that is let's say, we could say cultural, not in terms of like nationality or ethnicity, but in a sort of posture of the work, especially of a subcontractor. That when let's say, when a negative number start to appear in the physical progress, that where you cannot like adjust in procurement and engineering, maybe we can more or less adjust a little bit the number and more or less mitigate the gap. On physical progress, when you talk about dia inches, cubic meter of concrete, you cannot lie. And in that case, the gap has to emerge. When it emerges, normally is like there is never there is very rarely on subcontractor side some preventive action, some action that gives some heads up on this. Normally, we find it when it happens. So this is really where the AWP implementation, a correct usage of digital twins is becoming for us more and more critical, because we cannot start following up and putting out fires. We need to be really in control of the things before they reach to a stage where the subcontractor will come to my office and say, we are behind by X%.
Exactly.
We don't know what to do.
I can also see that it avoids friction between you and the subcontractors, telling you that they are 70% progress, whereas they're like 30%. You need something more accurate. Joaquin, how do you interpret the digital twin requirements? Where did you start? Tools, data, or processes?
Okay. Well, in TR, as I said before, we consider the EPC digital twin as an integrated project execution environment rather than just a visualization platform. Okay. The objective was to connect and integrate the engineering, the procurement, the construction, the scheduling, the commissioning, all this data into a common digital ecosystem in order to support the decision making rather than a simple 3D model representation. Okay. Where did we start? We had different start point, but our lesson learned has been that we should start by defining the key use cases and the key users in order to define the data requirement after, the association, and then select the proper technology, because not all the client understand the digital twin in the same way.
Correct. And appreciate that. We go to the challenges now to understand a little bit more. When did you feel things were not fully aligned? What signals raised the concerns? Like you started using digital twins. You're satisfied with it. It gives you the 3D model. Like you mentioned, Joaquin, you're connecting the different teams together. You have a single source of truth. But at one point, there was like something not working well. Like in the story I shared at the beginning, there's a missing gap. So when did you start understanding that? When did you start realizing that this is not working well? Dr. Omar, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the nightmare here is that, in mega projects, especially for us, that we have multiple contractors at the same time in a single location. So the problems escalates when you have multiple contractors, because every contractor has a different organization, has a different structure and setup. As Joaquin and Mauro has mentioned, they have their own organization within their companies, which is reasonable. However, when it comes to mega projects for us as an owner, And having multiple contractors, you'd have different structures, different data specification, different software, different platforms that you need to integrate. And this is where, for us, the problem becomes unbearable and the support is required to basically put together all this data in order to be useful for the project, to allow you a correct oversight, a visibility of the project, and also to monitor correctly what is happening on the field. This is basically what the major problem for us is.
Yep, yep, yep. I fully agree on that. And Mauro, I think you faced similar issues in that case. What were your experience on that?
Yeah, basically, is for sure. I mean, I am part of the complex scenario highlighted by Dr. Omar, and my problem at one level lower because I'm at contractor level, not so I have the same situation with similar situation with subcontractors, and things get unaligned when after you've done, let's say, your job to in the proper way because you've been here many times, you have an experienced team, you set up the target for the month and for this, so you sit together, we make a plan based on what we have, what we can achieve, and so on. Then at a certain point, halfway through the month, things are not happening. There is a gap. Things are not happening as they are. And apparently, as you saw at the beginning, everything should be in place. Then at this point, it's a sort of like what I was mentioning, the reactive approach starts. So there are conflicts. The construction manager will say that the subcontractor are not putting enough resources and manpower. The subcontractor will come to you and say that they don't have the work front unlocked because there are constraints. Then you check your constraints; they're not being reported properly. You don't see that this information is passed correct, and you start basically working back. Basically reverse working why you come to this situation, and maybe after 1 week, 2 weeks of work, you get what is the real picture of the information that normally is worse than you at the beginning think it was, and then the problem starts because not if we are lucky, then you can like put some more resources, put some more equipment, extend the time, make some action, expedite some approvals. And sometimes, if you have a constraint of space, if you have a constraint of sequence, that time is effectively lost, and then you have to work something on the back end. So what really is my stress, especially in my project, and the more the project become bigger and more complex, is that this lack of alignment creates some delay that shortly becomes not recoverable if it's not handled with the proper tool.
Yeah, so all these issues have to be identified early enough, and it's very interesting to see the different views that all of you have. From an owner perspective, Dr. Omar, he wants supervision, control, monitoring what's happening on the ground, and then reporting back. From your perspective as EPCs, you want to go in the details and see things really in details, like kind of a micro way of dealing with the reporting coming. So how would that align with you, Joaquin? If we want to dig deeper in the challenges to understand, what challenges did you face delivering digital twin, particularly, if you can tell us a story or something, and where teams aligned across engineering, planning, and site?
We face a lot of challenge, and we still face those challenges in
We have
many
all
cases.
time.
Okay.
You can tell us all that.
Okay, but if I want to highlight a couple of them, the core challenge that we faced were both technical and organizational. Okay, on the technical side, inconsistencies in data model and the absence of standardization tagging structure create a lot of integration issues. Okay, on the organizational side. In our case, in technical unit, each discipline operated with different priorities. For example, engineering was focusing on deliverables, procurement was focused on supply chain performance, construction and on short-term execution because they have to absorb all the delays, and planning on schedule tracking. Those differences created silos that limited the effectiveness of the digital twin. Initially, the alignment was limited because of different objectives from engineering, procurement, and construction and planning. From my point of view, EPC digital twin may help to expose those inconsistencies and try to align all teams by defining KPIs, for example, and common data structure that they can exchange the information. Once all those, let's say, discipline department see that they can exchange more effectively the information between them, they start changing their mind and see the positiveness of implementing the digital twin.
Wonderful, wonderful, exactly. And that's one of the most hardest job to do is changing mind, changing the way that people are working. Dr. Omar, I think you have experience with that. Can you tell us your opinion?
Well, having all this data scattered all over the teams, this is basically the major challenge. Controlling the data, making sure that everyone is providing the feedback in the same structure, using different templates, using different digital threads, workflows, makes us a difficult task to compile all the information and make sure that we provide at program level and the portfolio level all the
Yeah,
reporting that is required. So
yeah,
this is why I think a lot of emphasis must be done at the early stages of the project, calling fit, for instance, and make sure
mm,
that we put together all the specifications and all the clear rules for everyone to comply. I think that's,
yep.
that's very important, and that's why we need experienced contractors, experienced people, employees, in order to make sure that all these processes are complied.
Thank you so much. That speaks a lot on this point, and particularly about finding the right resources for the right position, especially that this digital twin, like I think at the beginning you have mentioned it, Mauro, is that everyone defines it the way he wants. So how we see things. There's not like an international way of defining it commonly. So that takes us to the next question is that what did you do differently early on? How did you align teams and workflows together? Joaquin?
Okay, I will give you three lessons learned or three ideas that may help to minimize the challenge from EPC digital to implementation.
Hmm.
This is based on our experience, okay? Probably other people will have others, okay? But
Yeah,
clearly, you should define data ownership, tagging application, complying with project tagging procedure. This is very important. The second is clearly identify the use cases for the EPC digital twin for each particular project. You know, one energy project might be different digital twin implementation than oil and
yeah,
gas
yeah,
project. And the third is that clearly define the final user that will, in daily basis, use the digital twin. Because you need to
yeah.
focus if you want to implement for your client only or for your construction team, or if it's a fit project, just basic engineering from your engineering team. So each stakeholder, let's say, use the digital twin in a different way. And this is very important to define at the beginning.
Understand. And do you, when thinking differently, like you were using digital twins and then you faced issues and then you started thinking there should be another way of dealing with this issue, maybe another methodology. How did you find out about a new methodology, maybe agile way of thinking, maybe combining things together? Like one is the advanced web packaging, digital project management. When was that particular moment that you identified that methodology? Also, Joaquin, if you don't mind.
Yes, well, we were exploring the market, finding, different solutions that may help us on that.
Mm,
Also because our client were requesting different digital twin, and we were not able to implement 8 different, digital twin for each client. So we
mm,
starting visualizing standard like CIFOS, standardization in the market for the tagging procedure and so on, and also
mhm.
the advanced working packages that were coming from, in this case, from you, Jax, from your company O3, help us a lot to understand that, in a simple way, everything could be integrated in the same platform.
I understand. Thank you so much, Joaquin. Dr. Omar, you're a champion and passionate about advanced packaging, about digital project management. I know we have a lot of people today in the webinar attending this, but can you present it in a very simplified way for people who don't understand what's that? Maybe they can understand a little bit more what we're talking about here, your own way.
Well, for me, the digital project management is basically digitalize our processes to make it more simple to the people to follow up and monitor. Let's say, for instance, a change order. So change order, you can do it manually, or you can possibly digitalize in a processes in a software, so you can generally basically develop workflows and roles and authorities in order to get this work done, and load and estimation, load all the administrative requirements, and so on. So for me, that's digital project management, where you have automated reporting, where you have many functionalities that make your work more efficient. Now there are processes like you are mentioning about AWP that we have been exploring in the. Of course, this is coming from the CII, from the research groups, and it is well proved that it works. There are other processes as well, but if you refer to the AWP, that was advanced work packaging, it is well proven, and we have recently made a research on that. I think it's gonna be maybe soon published on the CII
Nice.
advanced business groups. And we have done this research in order to know exactly as an owner, what are the steps we have to follow, and what are the considerations we have to do in order to have a successful implementation of
Yeah,
AWPs.
yeah. Very
And this
nice,
is
very nice.
basically my point of view on that.
We were very interested to be reviewing that as well and reading it, learning from it as well. Mauro, what measurable improvements did you observe? How did they impact risk and decisions? If we're now going in the results section.
In the results section, we had, let's say, in terms of improvement, the immediate improvement was, let's say, that in case, for example, of a situation we had of delay on a part of the work of the above ground facility, the accumulated delay became actionable much quicker than it would have been normally. So, for example, by implementing an appropriate listing of constraint, implementing let's say leveraging these tools to have, let's say, proper information from the site, not from where a project manager is under pressure from management to give unrealistic prediction, and then the construction follow, but the construction giving us the proper indication on how to tweak and plan and adjust the schedule and the progress target, and to remodulate the target. This became actionable, and in terms of measurable, we're still in the middle of the road. We just started in this project to implement. Is our first case of adoption as a company of this methodology, but a small result that gives me, let's say, a good outlook is that in the last 2 months we were able to recover on the construction of the above ground. We were 2% behind schedule. Now this week we will break even. So basically we have been in positive trend since now 7 or 8 weeks, and we were able to say, so this is again still a long road to go, still watching other setbacks to be recovered, but it gives me hope that this tool, together with other action, together with, because organization are a complex body, but it gives me hope that we are on the right path to use these tools and this technology correctly.
From your view as a director, you're looking as a satellite view on the project, how that was impacting the cost and productivity in terms of cost, if you can give us like an indication.
On cost is really still ongoing, but for example, on these, for sure the impact was beneficial, because normally, especially when you manage a subcontractor, is lagging behind, that generates the cost, the change order, and the disruption, and so on. So already, like for us, mitigating this delay and being successful in implementing this recovery plan, already, let's say, remove from the table several risks. Now I cannot talk about yet consolidated, but for sure I saw, even from my perspective, after first few months, I see a significant de-risking of what was happening later down the road. So the pool of claim already diminished significantly. The request of, let's say, disruption and so on already are off the table, and even this one is for sure is already a tangible benefit, even if it's not measurable in terms of concrete cost. Let's say that because all the projects know that then you are having budget overruns and so on. And typically, if you run a project on schedule, is much more. A lot. It means that there is no really tangible change that you are applying to the project. And this for sure is a huge protection of the budget that very rarely I've had the benefit of it.
Totally agree. Joaquin, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I know that I might repeat myself again, but for us, in terms of benefits, for example, we are improving the visibility across engineering, procurement, and construction. Before, as I say, they were working as silos somehow, and now the communication is much more improved. So increase the schedule reliability. We are also early identifying the risk and the constraint that is producing a reduction in reworks that we are having a field. And we are having a single source of truth for the project. This is very important also to hand over to our client to reduce the timing in which we are doing the handover process. And one sentence that you like, we are enabling the predictive project control instead of being reactive.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
In terms of impact in schedule, cost, and productivity, what we are improving, we are improving the project performance by having better methods for cost control, minimizing the reworks, as I said, faster identification of the issue and resolution, and reducing deviation and improving predictability.
Very nice. Very nice. I can see that we're talking about preventive, predictability, avoiding reactive, uh, enriching the digital twin with metadata, aligning everyone, one single platform, project-wise data integration, success criteria, KPI, physical progress, changing mind, identify use cases for implementation, define final user. Now, this question is for all of you, all the three of you. If you were looking backward, what would you prioritize differently today? If you were to do the set, like restart some of the projects, what would you prioritize differently? And where do you see the biggest opportunity in your current projects? Dr. Omar?
I think from my experience and from what I've learned from many implementations, maybe having a solid contractual foundation, which is critical for us, leverage on what is the experience that we have gained the last years, how the data is structured. And I think we have mentioned that how the data is structured and how the requirements are to be clearly agreed upon before starting the project. What
Yep.
are the integrated solutions that we require, that we mandate in some cases,
Yep.
and what are the digital threads that can really interconnect among the different tools that are used by different stakeholders, and also new processes coming to the market, and how can we also absorb all these processes coming from the market, and how can we capitalize on them. So this is basically what I would structure a potential future.
Very insightful. Thank you, Dr. Omar. Mauro?
From my side, for sure, now that we are adopted this methodology and these tools, what I would be different is that I would, let's say, structure. I would start at the early design stage to plan for this type of methodology. I mean, I would embed it already now that also as an organization are a little bit more familiar with the methodology itself and the benefits and so on. I would be for sure we would encourage a more an earlier adoption, in an earlier stage of the project. So even we can organize our engineering and procurement in a way that can fit in better in this methodology, because is truly a benefit for construction and for execution, which is the ultimate goal to have to deliver a project on time and on budget, let's say. So for sure, earlier adoption would be something that I would do if I
Yep.
had a chance to repeat.
Yep. Yeah. Would you feel like comfortable putting in the contract like a clause that we should be having this kind of methodology, or do you think you leave it open for the EPCs and the owners to do it?
Well, is in terms of, let's say, I'm getting more and more confident and would be for sure more comfortable than now that I would have been 6 months earlier. I'm very much a sort of case by case person, but really from what I see so far is really the amount of flexibility is a lot. So from what I can see, yes, I would say that is something that could be welcome for sure. For sure, it would require some transition time, but I believe it would be an overall benefit.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mauro. Joaquin,
Okay,
what are
let's
your thoughts
see
on this? Yeah.
what I will do different today, or what I will prioritize, right? I
Yes.
will fully follow a standard from the day zero. Okay, the data quality is very important, and it's mandatory to follow a standard. Otherwise,
Yeah.
especially nowadays that EPC contractors have engineering teams all around the world. We are not only working from
Correct.
Spain, also in India. Each let's say country has different standards. Okay, so standardization
Yep.
in the way that we do the design.
Yep.
Clearly identify who are the final user. Don't jump into implementing a digital twin without knowing exactly who is going to be using finally on daily basis your digital twin. Then I will say also to develop a data lake. Normally the commercial digital twin that are in the market, I don't want to list them, but SDX, AIM from Aviva, etc., don't have a data lake for quality validation, okay? And to absorb and import all the data from engineering, design system, procurement, and construction.
Yeah.
So you should develop the data lake yourself or having one commercial in the market. And
Yep.
then the biggest opportunity, where do I see the biggest opportunity? In the artificial intelligence, obviously. We
Oh,
need to
yes, yes.
start embedded some algorithms from AI for risk prediction, for example, to automated progress measurement. In this case, we are, for example, right now implementing a reality capture with drones flying and so on. The AI can be used for predicting material availability analysis and very important also, we need to start focusing the big opportunities on at the end you transfer the digital twin to our client. As an EPC
Yep.
contractor, you are using your digital twin for 3 years. That is normally the period
Right.
in where you implement the digital twin. But our clients, let's say Aramco, ADNOC, will be using the digital twin for many years. So we need to
Yes.
find a nice transition toward what we call operational digital twin, okay, which is
Very
beyond
nice.
project delivery.
Yep. Yep. Very, very nice. So that you can use the data anytime, anywhere, and then you can fetch it inside and do the expansion, demolition, refurbishment, whatever.
Yes.
Excellent. We move to the next slide, please. So the key takeaway. So we learned a lot through this webinar. And of course, we don't have enough time to dig deep into multiple questions and then into the questions that have been asked. But we retain something very important. And this is through experience and from what we have learned together. A digital twin alone is not sufficient. A methodology of AWP is not sufficient. And also a BIM model and the 3D model itself is not sufficient. When you look at a human body, I'm pretty sure most of you will agree with me, is that the human is made of a spirit, soul, and a body. The body itself is the 3D model. The spirit could be the AWP, then the soul would be the digital twin. The three together makes who you are now. So the construction project, we need all the three together. Again, this is a map that you have a road inside that will take you to the end destination from the starting point. So the connection over visualization, leverage, use, enrich your model with data, with metadata, use AI for it. Align before technology, align everyone, get everyone working together, break the silos, break the miscommunication, the miscollaboration between the different trades, have seamless integration between the people, create success criteria, like Joaquin has mentioned it many, many times, which is like use cases, identify use cases for implementations. AWP turns the digital twin into a delivery engine. Structured work packaging connects the digital world with the field. That's the gap. That's the filling. That's the solution for filling that gap. And finally, the future is predictive. I wouldn't say that much of predictive, but I would say definitely preventive. You would have enough information that will help you do preventive measures by predicting that things will happen wrongly, and then you can fix them before they actually happen. Digital twin alone can do that once you start adding sensors everywhere and using IoT, but we cannot do that everywhere because you will explode your budget. So, and it's very complex, and then infrastructure wouldn't allow you to doing that properly. So we need the methodology for the construction sequencing, for the deployment on the site, from reporting from the site, and then gluing all the different things together. These are kind of takeaways. Of course, we have much more than that, but these are the key takeaways from this event. Now, let's move to the next, which is exclusive announcement. But before that, we will open the floor for a few questions. We received like many of them. Let's begin with the first one. If we are already implementing AWP, then what value digital twin will add to EPC contractor? Of course, only exception if end users call for it. I repeat, if we are using and already implementing AWP, what would the digital twin have as an added value to the EPC contractor? I would ask this for Joaquin and then to Mauro, please.
it is, I think we already solved that question during our webinar, but I will repeat. The most important thing, taking consideration, at least in Técnicas Unidas, to develop one of our project, engineering, construction, and procurement and construction, we are using around 128 different applications and databases. The most important is the collaboration platform to communicate to each other to be more efficiently and to have everything in a single platform with data structure, quality of the data, and so on for making decision is vital. It's mandatory. So the
Yep.
digital twin becomes to solve this gap that we have by using too many applications independently. Okay, this is my
Yep.
answer to that.
Yep. Yep. Mauro, just quickly, please.
Yeah, nothing really to add to what Joaquin already said. I mean, yeah, I mean, we can do project in many ways. For sure, the introduce a digital twin on top, or beside the AWP is just making it using it, boosting the best characteristic of the AWP. You cannot do AWP without having properly without having a proper set of information readily
Yep.
available, and this can be done through digital twin.
Yep. Yep. Thank you for that. What was the biggest pushback you received from your frontline team during the challenge phase? And how did you adjust your training or communication strategy to get them back on board? I would continue with you, Mauro, because you faced at some point this issue. Then Joaquin and Dr. Omar, is very important to hear your opinion on that.
It's still ongoing because still we have, let's say, relatively few early adopters of this methodology. We are at the start. The contractors, let's say, are still struggling to buy in, and the biggest thing is the correct use of information and the correct filling of information inside the platform. For sure, this is the biggest resistance because everybody is used to the typical, let's say, daily, weekly, and monthly reporting, and it's enough. And then all the significant information, all the actionable information, sometimes they get lost in the shuffle, let's say. So this is the point of resistance that we are still trying to address. So, and we are still, let's say, more behind than I would like, but on this is a work in progress for us.
Yep. Yeah. Dr. Omar?
Can you repeat the question, Jax, please?
So what was the biggest pushback you received from your frontline team, in your case, team, subcontractors, everyone you're working with during the challenge phase? And how did you adjust your training or communication strategy to get them back on board? Was it like through setting the criteria, the end objective, the roadmap, and then what's the value? What can you tell us about that?
I've heard about, because we are not responsible directly for the implementations, but I think the challenge that was developed in one of the major capital projects in our organization was the data transmission, the interconnecting of the data between the contractors and the main platform that they are supposed to deliver that data. And it was not set up correctly. And that's why they needed extra work in order to make it work during the EPC already, during the execution of the contract, which caused many delays on that particular project. So if that we learn from that experience in future, so all these data requirements need to be, I think Joaquin and Mauro, you talk about the same thing, but in future, this data requirement must be established early on in the project. That's the reason why.
Thank you for that. I think, Joaquin, if you have like a few seconds on this, not taking much time, if you don't mind.
Okay, I will highlight it that our main issue on that has been that our digital twin goes around the 3D model and we implement many functionalities surrounded by the digital twin on the 3D. Engineering people are very well familiar using this and procurement also, but our construction team, on one side we have very well educated people with graduation from university and so on, but I'm afraid that during construction and supervision, not all our people are used to use complex tools. So we needed to create a digital twin more simple to be utilized during the construction phase for those people to take advantages, and otherwise they were not able to use the complex digital twin.
Yeah. We have time for one more question, and then we have to jump to the exclusive announcement. So one last question, and apologize for everyone who's asking the questions. All of them are interesting, and hopefully we will follow up with that after. what was or is the timeline to implement AWP and digital project management within your business? So Joaquin.
Well, we have, together with you, we have some good example in several projects. I will say that 3 months, it will be a good achievement because you need to set up the foundation of the house, let's say, and then later you can build easily. And I will say, or I will recommend to have a professional advice like your company is doing to support the EPC contractor. I will, as an EPC contractor, I will not go alone on implementing this, at least on the first project. You need a consulting and an advisor to help you because they have lesson learned from other implementation, and this will
Yeah.
be smoothly.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Mauro, in a few words.
Yes, more or less same. Even for us, the first one is taking a little bit even longer. I mean, we are in the range of 4 months to make the appropriate startup of the system, and then the implementation improves along the road, at least on the first project. This is what we are living right now.
Thank you for that. So next, we will use the next 3-4 minutes to present you the announcement. So with Técnicas Reunidas, O3 is pleased to let you know that we have put together a very, very interesting white paper. It is a one of a kind. It will teach you what are the challenges that the EPCs are facing today, the owners, the designers, and then how these challenges can be resolved. What is that solution that will solve your issue? What is that route that can be created within that map that we just mentioned today? And then we will tell you the story of how that has been proven successfully on the second largest offshore project in the world, which is being held by Técnicas Reunidas. It's called Lower Zakum. And then it walks you through the partnership that we have built together, and we are making it stronger and stronger. And we'll be more than happy to also join forces with everyone throughout this webinar today, watching us and following us with this session. Now, the white paper is not a very short one. It's going to be dozens of pages, but every word of it, it's worth your time of reading it and learning from it. This is breakthrough in today in market and industry. I'll let Gabby talk a little bit more about that and how you can get access to this.
Thanks, Jacques, and thank you to our speakers and for everyone in the audience who joined us today. As a reminder, this QR code on the screen will take you to the post-webinar page with all the materials from today, including the recording of the webinar, the slides, and the white paper that Jacques just announced. You don't need to fill out a form to access the white paper. It's there for your viewing. And then, just to conclude here today, the O3 team hopes to see many of you at some of these upcoming events here on the screen, including the Comfex conference in Dubai on September 9th and 10th. We're going to continue today's conversation during a workshop at the event and encourage all of you to sign up if you're planning to be at the conference. More information on this can be found on our website. And with that, this concludes today's session. Thank you again for everybody for joining, and to our speakers and Jacques for moderating. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.